Peace and blessings, family. This is Brother Mike X. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Brother Mike X Speaks. Tonight, I want to talk to you about the perspective, that people call spirituality. Spirituality is not religion. It's not based upon rituals. It's not based upon a particular day of the week. I have to be in church on Sundays. I have to practice as a Christian. I have to practice Juma, on Fridays as a Muslim. The last Sunday of every month, we have parliaments, in the nation of gods and earths. It's not about, rituals. Spirituality is about practicing the higher values that are rooted in the spirit. Love, mercy, compassion, forgiveness, empathy. We're born into this world. We're born into this world as individuals. And as we develop as individuals, we first begin to develop through the flesh, and as we get older, we begin, our minds, begin to activate, we begin to, become thinking, human beings. We begin to make decisions, and, those decisions that we make, by and large, those decisions are selfish decisions, decisions that we make to help our individual selves, and that individual self could, usually is the person, and as we get older, what we begin to do, and we begin to think, what we begin to do is we begin to, we may grow into making decisions from a racial standpoint, from an ethnic standpoint, from a geographic standpoint, I was born and grew up in the Northeast Bronx, New York City, so a lot of people, I hear it all the time, you look at the world as I'm a Bronxite, and because I'm a Bronxite, or because I come from New York City, I should like New York, I should like the New York Knicks, I should like the New York Jets, I should like the New York Giants, and me particularly, I don't like any of those three teams, but that's not why I'm having this video. I'm just talking about that, because to show this is what we do. We begin to break ourselves down and distance ourselves from other people based upon our individual lives. Along those lines, race, ethnicity, geographic point of origin, and as we become more intelligent and we begin to break ourselves down, a lot of times what we do, we don't just live our lives, to the best of our abilities for ourselves, and refrain from molesting other people. What we do a lot of times, because from those two stances, the flesh and the mental, a lot of times what we'll do is, we'll judge other people who are not the same as us, what I mean, who don't have the same race, who don't have the same ethnicity, who don't have the same, common point of geographic origin. And this is where a lot of the conflict in the world begins. We go further. You didn't go to the same school that I went to. You don't practice the same religion that I practice. You know what I mean? And this is wrong. This is what's wrong with the world. We're operating from division. There's a word, a particular word that connects when you operate from this standpoint. It's called ego. The ego is rooted in division. The ego was rooted in me, what's best for me, and it may graduate or grow to not just me, or it may grow to what's best for us, my particular race, my particular ethnicity, my particular part of the country or part of the city. And from this egoistic standpoint, you know, we operate, you know, on the lower qualities that are rooted in the ego, you know, envy, jealousy, you know, anger, wrath, you know, lust, you know, a lot of different, you know, lower emotions are rooted in the ego. And, you know, you have some people, you know, they'll live their whole lives, you know, from the lower perspective, you know, of the flesh, you know, just, you know, as an individual from the flesh. I'm just going to do what's best for me at all times. You know, I want what I want, and I don't care what kind of trouble or havoc that I create, you know, as long as I get what I want. And what that does a lot of times, it destroys relationships. You know, it destroys the possibility for harmony, you know, to exist between that person and another person, or that person and a larger group of people. And when you have a whole lot of people who are operating from ego, you know, from flesh, together at the same time, look out, you know. And then you'll have some other people, you know, they're not just dealing from the flesh, they're dealing from the mental, you know. So they can plan things, you know, they can make better decisions than the person who's just dealing from the flesh. And they might be able to get along with certain people, you know, but a lot of times the people that they'll be able to get along with it's exclusive, you know, to that particular race or that particular ethnicity or that particular geographic origin that they share, you know, with those people. And they may be able to get along with those people, you know, and they practice an exclusivity, you know, and sometimes, you know, they practice a bigotry, you know, and they use their connection, you know, their commonality to strive to molest other people who are not the same as them. Wow. In order to break free of that damage, you know, that exclusivity, we all go to the same church, you know, we're all the same race, we all from the city, or we all from the country, or, you know, that type of, or the one that's lower than that, when we're just, you know, not even dealing from the mental, we just dealing from the flesh, you know, I'm just doing what's best for me, you know, I don't care about nobody else, I'm just gonna, you know, do whatever I can to make myself feel satisfied. In order to graduate, you know, we have to explore the component of spirituality, you know. And from my point of view, spirituality is, like I said, it's not dealing with a particular church, a particular building. It's not dealing with a particular race. You know, it's not dealing with a particular geographic point of origin. You know, spirituality is dealing with, you know, the higher qualities of love, you know, forgiveness, mercy, you know what I mean, compassion, empathy, you know, truth, you know, truth is not exclusive to race. Truth is not exclusive to ethnicity, point of origin. Truth is just truth, you know, and what this does is it gives us an opportunity to build common ground, you know, that will cut down on the conflict, that will cut down on the division that comes and is manifested, you know, through the ego, through that division, and through practicing those lower qualities that spring forth, you know, when we hold on to ego, and then when we use ego to strive to boost our particular race, you know, or strive to boost ourselves, you know, exclusively, you know, of other people, you know, to boost our ethnicity, to boost our particular, you know, neighborhood or our block, you know, or our color, you know what I mean? You know, this is where the damage in our neighborhoods are coming from. But when we open ourselves up to the practice of spirituality, you know, and why do I say practice? You know, because just knowing that the qualities of love, forgiveness, mercy, compassion, empathy, you know, the open-minded acceptance of truth, You know what I mean? Wherever it comes from and whatever degree, that you find it in. You know what I mean? Just knowing these things is not enough. You know what I mean? It's something, because you can easily slip back into just dealing from the exclusivity of, what race you belong to, from the exclusivity of your particular ethnicity or where you come from. I come from New York City, so I can't like nothing outside of New York City. You know what I mean? Or I come from, 229th and Laconia. I grew up in Edenwald Projects in New York City, so I can't rock with those people over there in Boston Secor, you know what I mean? Or Eastchester Heights or Gun Hill Road Projects. This is what happens when we only deal from the position of the flesh, you know what I mean? Of the mental, without the common ground, you know what I mean? The unity, of the spirit, And I'll tell you, I had enough, man. I had enough. No longer do I want to be relegated, to division. No longer do I want to participate in conflict. Conflict that is born from operating from the ego. Doing things that is just, I don't think I've ever been that way, but just doing things from what's best for me as an individual, or operating from, just from, what's best for me and my race, or what's best for, the ethnic group that I come from, or the projects that I came out of. You know what I mean? Or the geographic point. I'm just about the Bronx. I ain't trying all that Brooklyn stuff. Get out of here with that. No. I'm tired. I don't want to rock out from the position of ego, from the position of division. Right now, Brother Mike is stepping into the realm of spirituality. The practice of love, the practice of forgiveness, the practice of mercy and compassion and empathy. This is how I'm striving to walk at this point in my life. I want the best for all people. I want to, be at peace. I want to be in harmony. I want to practice what's best for everyone. And I'm willing to practice that with whoever's willing to practice that with me. And this is the problem. This is a level that we all hopefully will one day strive to ascend to. You know what I mean? But just because I am striving to practice spirituality in my life, that doesn't mean that my neighbor is going to practice spirituality. And it's hard, to practice, spirituality with someone who doesn't respect that. You know what I mean? And this is why, once again, you have so much division. Christians can't get along with Muslims. Muslims can't get along with Jews. Black people can't get along with white people. The people who live in the Bronx can't get along with the people who live in Harlem. All of this nonsense. Does that stop the individual who is interested in practicing spirituality from being able to do that? No. Even if you have to practice it by yourself, which I'm doing, and to really, get good at something, 9 times out of 10, you got to do that, that alone work that allows you to be able to practice whatever it is that you're going to practice with somebody else that you find who wants to practice it with you. Just because you find somebody to practice with doesn't mean that you shouldn't be practicing in your own spare time. You know what I mean? So that you can, every time that you meet up with that person, you've grown a little bit. And hopefully that person has been practicing in their long time where they're able to show you that they have grown a little bit. And y'all are able to proceed, together to those higher levels. You know what I mean? So, it's something that you got to practice on a regular basis because, like I said, due to the fact that we have a lot of people who are not practicing things, we can always be tempted to fall back into those lower levels of operating from just the mental, the exclusivity of race and all of those other things that divides us. So I'm gonna have to cut this off for now, you know what I mean? But get at me, let me know what you think, and let's strive to rise to a level of spirituality.